my friends, it's Twix here, and today at the Chef Academy we are going to make pizza crust with no yeast. So what we're going to do is I've already pre-measured everything, minus maybe like 1 or 2 items, and you're going to start with your flour in a bowl. Next you're going to add your salt and your baking powder. Get all of that in there. And then after that, you're just going to mix it together. That way you have salt and baking powder in all sections of the flour. Perfect. Now, we're going to stir in our 1/2 cup of milk. And I know every time I make biscuits and things, I usually have to add in more. So I have my jug of milk over here, just in case I need to add some extra. And you're going to keep stirring it until it becomes a little bit of a dough form. And as you can see, it's already clumping up and I'm going to need more milk. So this is a perfect time for me to also add the olive oil. So I'm going to take my olive oil and add 2 tablespoons. Put that there. I'm going to add a little bit more milk, and to make sure I don't over pour, I'll pour some in here first and then pour a little more. And to help give this a little more flavor, I know the recipe didn't call for it, I'm going to add some different seasonings. So I'm going to add some onion powder, and you just do it to taste, garlic powder, and some Italian seasoning as well. Gotta shape this one a little more. There we go. And mix. Like I said, you're gonna wanna try and get all of the flour mixed in, and it's gonna turn into a dough. Be prepared for this to get messy, because especially the next step, we're going to be using our hands a lot. Alright, I think that's mixed in well enough. So, next what we're going to do is we need to knead the dough about 10 times or so. So what we're going to do is going to take some flour, not all of this, and we're going to sprinkle it on a even surface. Spread it out with your hands. Get some on your hands if possible. And then take the dough from the bowl and drop it right on top. You're also going to want to get the extra dough that's on the spoon, if you used a spoon, off as well. Come on. Now here's where the fun part begins, my friends. We are going to use our hands to knead this dough. So because I don't want to get a whole bunch of sticky dough on my hands to start, I always like to take some flour and sprinkle it at the very top of the dough. That way it'll help and it's not sticking to my hands as much. After that, you just start rolling it up and kneading it out. And like I said, the recipe calls for you to do this about 10 times or so. You do it up until you think that your dough is ready and it's not super sticky and sticking to your hand as much. I think this is the cleanest I have ever made dough. So, some of you might be asking why I added onion powder, garlic powder, and some Italian seasoning. That's because without it, the crust is going to just taste like flour. So you want to add a little bit of seasoning, whatever you think will taste good. That way your crust has a little bit of flavor to it, and you're not just using the flavors from the pizza sauce or the flavors from whatever toppings you put on. All right, so I think my crust is good to go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put in a little ball here. I'm then going to take a bowl, put it inside of that bowl, and then if you have a lid for that bowl, use the lid. If not, you can use some cling wrap. Cover it up. And then do it one more time on the other side to make sure all those little ends get covered. And then I'm going to set this in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes. That way it can sit and get all nice and good. And we will see you back here in about 10 minutes. Friends, Twix here, and welcome back to our Pizza Your Way. So my crust was sitting for a little over 10 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and roll it out. That way we can get it in the oven and we can get this pizza going. So before I roll it out, because it is still just a little sticky, I'm just gonna flour the surface. Not too much though, but just enough that I can roll it out without getting clumps of dough on this table. Perfect. So now I'm just gonna drop that in right there. Get a little bit of dough on it, and I'm gonna start flattening it with my hand. After I flattened it a little bit, now I'm going to grab my handy dandy rolling pin, and I'm gonna roll this out to the desired size. So the amount of crust that we made should make a 12-inch pizza, but I like thin crust pizza, so I'm going to make this crust a little thinner. If you don't care for thin crust pizza, no problem. All you have to do is just stop rolling it whenever you get to your desired crust size. Now remember, this pizza is made with no yeast, so it won't rise too much like how it would with yeast. And the reason why I decided to make a pizza without yeast is because most people don't have yeast in their home. And I wanted you guys to be able to use whatever you have in your cupboards. Because I know one day I was randomly craving pizza, didn't have any in the freezer, didn't want to order any, so I looked up a recipe, and lo and behold, I found one without yeast, and it worked out great. Okay. Almost done rolling here, and try and roll it into a circle if possible. As you can see, mine looks like a blob, but that is perfectly fine. It'll still be deliciousness. Alright. So like I said, I like my crust to be a little bit thinner. And I think that this should be good to go. Now before you start putting toppings on and everything, you're actually going to need to pre-bake your crust for a few minutes. So I'm going to nicely peel it off of the table here. As you can see, it might stick a little bit. So it's going to take me a second. You got to be gentle with it. And you can always re-stretch it out once you get onto the pan. If it starts to shrink up, which it most likely will. Awesome. So now I'm going to take my crust. This is the pizza pan that I have. If you have a pizza pan that doesn't have holes in it, you're more than welcome to use that as well. Or if you think that it will hold, you can put your crust straight on the rack. However, you might end up with a pizza that's like the shape of the top of a house. Alright, so I've got my crust all ready. I am going to bake it in the oven at 400 for about 8 minutes. And then I will bring it back out and we will add all of our toppings. See you in a few. I had to grab the bag of cheese. We're just gonna keep going with it. And you're gonna want the cheese to cover as much of the sauce as you can. So you're gonna want to get close to those edges. Almost done. Yeah, a little for good measure. All right. All right, now I have my cheese on as well, and you can top it with whatever toppings you like. So look at the recipe for some different ideas if you want to try something new. What I'm going to do is I like pepperoni and veggies. So I'm going to take some pepperonis and spread them out. And I'm one of those people that likes to have at least 2 pepperonis in every bite, so they're gonna go all over the place. Yes, I think that would be good. I also like to have mushrooms. They're one of my favorite veggies. And when you're putting on the veggies and such, you want to kind of push them in a little bit. That way they're not just floating on top. And if you need to, you can always break them up into smaller pieces. Now the mushrooms look really big right now, but keep in mind mushrooms break down and shrink up. Alright, now I'm going to add a little bit of some green bell peppers. I'm just going to sprinkle those around. And then some spinach here. I'm going to break my spinach a little bit. All right. Now, like I said before, just kind of push it in. That way when the cheese melts, it'll melt into it. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this back in the oven for about another 10 to 15 minutes, or at least until it's golden brown or to your desired texture. So hold tight, my friends. We will be back here in a few. Friends, we're back. So our pizza is all done and it looks magical and delicious and golden brown. And we're gonna cut into this and take a bite. All right. You can use a pizza cutter to cut it. To be honest, at home, I don't have a pizza cutter, so I just use scissors. And I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off this one little piece. Put it on over here. Let's see. Oh yeah. Not delivery, it's campish.